good morning everyone. Today we are on a second session of class 8 geography chapter 1 resources. In our last video we have seen the meaning of resources. We have seen that resources means everything or anything which is available in our environment which is having a capacity to satisfy human needs. They are called as resources like land, soil, water, air, all these things around us. They are having a capacity to satisfy our needs. That is why they are termed as resources. We have also seen that there are two types of resources, that is natural resources and man-made resources. Natural resources means resources which is drawn from the nature, and man-made resources means resources which is made by nature, made by human beings, made by men to satisfy the needs of human beings. Like natural resources, we can take an example of air, water, land. They are the example of natural resources which is drawn from the nature. Man-made resources, we can say electricity, furnitures, houses. They are the man-made resources which is made by men to satisfy different needs of the human beings. Now we will see classification of resources in this particular video or in this particular session. Now when we classify the natural resources, before we have already seen that there is two types of resources, natural resources drawn from the nature and man-made resources made by the human beings or made by men. Now we will see the classification on different bases. Now when we talk about the classification, natural resources can be classified in different ways, but man-made resources does not have any classification. There is only one classification, that is man-made resources made by men. But when we talk about natural resources has been classified on the basis of different ways or on the basis of different things. Now we will see the classification of natural resources on different bases. First one is basis of origin. Now when we talk about basis of origin, natural resources can be classified on the basis of origin, or on the basis of origin there are two types of natural resources, biotic resources or abiotic resources. Biotic resources means organic or living resources, anything in our environment which is an organic or living being. Any living being or any organic things which can be used as a resource to satisfy our needs, it can be termed as biotic resources. Like let's take an example, plants. Plants, we can say that plants are organic plants are organic in nature. Plants are organic resources. Through plants we get our food, through plants we get vegetables, through plants we get wood, through plants we also get wood which we used for making furnitures and houses. So we can say that plants are organic resources or biotic resources. And in living organism we can say animals, we use animals as a resource. We also use human being as a resource. As we have seen in our last video, human beings act as a resource for a country. So over here we can say that the first one is biotic resources, which means organic or living resources. Or we can take an example of plants, animals and human beings. Abiotic resources means any non-living thing which existed in our environment. Maybe it is anything which we used as a resource which is non-living thing. Like let's take an example, we used chair to sit, we used furnitures in our houses. We also use many equipments in our houses or equipments for other things. All these things like minerals, like oils, wood, all these things comes under abiotic resources because they are non-living things. So on the basis of origin we can classify natural resources on two types, that is biotic resources and abiotic resources. Biotic resources means organic or living resources, or abiotic resources means non-living things existed or non-living things around us which is having a capacity to satisfy human needs. Now secondly, on the basis of stages of development, natural resources can be classified into actual resources or potential resources. On the basis of stages of development means how and how much that resource can be developed in a particular area. On the basis of that stages of development of resources, natural resources can be classified into actual resources and potential resources. Now what is actual resources? Actual resources means those resources which is known by human beings. That means there is in different areas, when we know that resource is there in that particular area, and how much quantity was there and what is the quality of that resource which we drawn from that particular area or from that particular region. That means we know everything about that resource which is available in that particular area. That is called as actual resources, which can be used at its full extent. We can use that resource at its full extent because we know about that resource. That is called as actual resources. Like let's take an example, gold in Germany, oil and petroleum in Gulf countries. Let's take an example of oil and petroleum in Gulf countries. We know that they know that how much oil and petroleum was available there in their region. So they are using that in their full extent, in their full development. They are using that resources to their full development because they know about that resources. But when we talk about potential resources, those resources are unknown. Unknown means we don't know about the quantity and quality of that resource in a particular region, because of which those resources are there but we cannot use them. But we are not using those resources because we are not knowing about that resources. We don't know about the resources quality and quantity in that particular region. So we are not using them in the full extent, or we are not developing those resources in the full extent, which is called as potential resources. Like let's take an example, uranium deposits in Ladakh and oil in Rajasthan. We know that Ladakh is having uranium deposits, but we don't know where those uraniums are there and how much quantity was there. That is why we are not using them in the full extent. So we can say that those resources are the potential resources because we don't know about the quantity and quality of that resources in a particular region. But when we talk about the actual resources, we know the quality of and quantity of that resources in a particular region. We determined, surveyed and quantified those resources. So those resources can be developed in full extent, which is called as actual resources. And potential resources, we don't know about them, we don't know about the quality and quantity of those resources. So this is on the basis of stages of development. Now third basis, natural resources can be divided or can be classified on the basis of renewability. That means whether the resources can be renewed or cannot be renewed. So on that basis we are having two types of resources, renewable resources or non-renewable resources. Renewable resources means resources which can be renewed, or non-renewable means resources which cannot be renewed. Like let's take an example of mineral oils and petroleum or gas. All these resources are non-renewable resources. These resources once used, they got finished. We cannot recreate them or we cannot have them again. So that is non-renewable resources. Or renewable resources means which can be renewed. That means once we used it, it can be renewed. Like plants can be grown again and again. So it is renewable resources or non-renewable resources on the basis of renewability. And the last one or last classification of natural resources is on the basis of distribution. On the basis of distribution, natural resources can be classified into two types, that is ambiguous resources or localized resources. Now what is ambiguous resources? Ambiguous resources means those resources which can be found anywhere or everywhere, like land, soil, water, air. These are the resources which can be found everywhere or anywhere in any region, because those are the ambiguous resources. But when we talk about the localized resources, these are the resources which can be found in the particular region or in a particular locality or in a particular area, like oil in Gulf countries, oil in Rajasthan, coal in Jharkhand. These are the localized resources. So today in this particular today in this particular video, we have seen the classification of natural resources on the basis of origin, on the basis of stages of development, on the basis of renewability, or on the basis of distribution. And as we have known that there are two types of resources, natural resources and man-made resources. So I hope you have understand this particular video. Till then, thank you.